Now, let's say you want to create a new program for your client. You have a new client and you want to create a doc to share with them so that you can track all the programs, sessions, and exercises that they do over time, together with their progression and charts showing their progression. So you have this table of clients. You can create a doc for the client by clicking this button. That will link up your client doc that is shareable with them. You click this URL right there and you open the client doc directly. The client doc already has the name of the client, space, training plan, and that is recognizable in your workspace whenever you navigate through the different client docs that you have. And there is a structure that is already populated for you for that client that is templatized, so that you can come here, go to programs, maybe open table view, and let's create a new program. Let's give this program a name, a start date, as well as an end date, an objective, if there is one, or you can create a new one directly from here. A status of the program, feature active or complete, and you can write down any notes that might be useful for the client or for yourself in this first stage where you are setting up the program. Next up, you add all the sessions and the exercises for each session for this program. So you would create a new row right here. Let's say that's a full body session. You can open that and select a date and time of that session. A duration, by default it's going to be 60 minutes. The program is automatically populated. You can write down notes for this session and prompts for the client right here. And then you can select all the movements for that session. So you create a new row, you select the movement. Let's say first movement is going to be squats. So I can type it up here. It will filter the list for me, and I'm going to select back squat. I can add sets, reps, rest in minutes, weight, that is a tracking property or column that we can use later. And then I get the proper execution link right here, where the client can directly watch the video that is linked from a master database. And so on. You can make your program right here. And you can also write text in this format. It doesn't have to be a specific number necessarily. It can be like that. And you can also add notes right here directly inside the page. And you can go back right here. The notes preview is going to show up. And that's all the movements for that session that you can also open right here. So now let's say that is the session that we have, session number 1 of test program. And let's say this session happens every week, but it just change the progression for each movement. So let's say I want to duplicate this session, and we click this button. That will create a brand new row for me. Let's say this is A2 for week 2, and I'm going to open this page, maybe select next week as a date, and I can go down here and I would find the exact same exercises as the previous session. And if I want, I can change maybe the progression based on volume, like that. And that will retain all the data that were entered previously. So week number 1, that is 26th, is going to be 3 sets for back squats. And week number 2, on the 3rd, it is going to be 4 sets. And you can repeat this process for creating an entire program that is then shareable with your client. So that is a doc, and you can share that with your client. Your client will be able to use the workouts home to see the sessions of the week, to see a calendar of all the sessions, enter any inputs that they may have if you give them editing access. And they can also have a friendly mobile view that shows today's training session at the very top of it, where you can open that page and see exactly what exercises to do on that session. And you can also mark the session as complete. So that's the flow of how you can create a program for your client as a personal trainer using this personal trainer OS Coda template. Now, if you are interested in learning more about all the details of how this system works, keep watching and I will explain everything right now. And everything starts from the personal trainer OS doc. That is a doc with two main tables, clients and invoices. These tables are related via a relation property. And the clients table is key because that's where you can enter all the clients that you have. You can also archive them and they will disappear from this view, but you can at any time remove the filter and you can see your archived clients. Each client is a page that you can open like that. And you can see all the data that you can enter, date when they became client, the address, city, state, zip code, and the client doc, importantly, that is what determines your button creation here. So you can use this button to create the client doc that you can either share with them or just keep for yourself. And each doc will then be in here. And whenever you create that doc, clicking that button, then you can't create a new one because you already created that doc. The link becomes clickable and the button becomes unclickable. From here, you can quickly access the doc like we just saw in the flow of creating your client's programs. And you can also see invoices if you want to manage them in here, directly on this table right here. Be aware that Coda has a packs ecosystem that you can find under Insert, and you have packs. So for example, if you use QuickBooks or Zoho to create invoices and manage finances related to your clients, that's where packs can be very useful for you, because you can integrate packs within this system here, where if you search for QuickBooks, for example, you can find a pack in here, and that allows you to sync invoices between QuickBooks and Coda so that you can manage all the data in one place while at the same time retaining the key features of QuickBooks, for example, that allows you to create invoices easily. And the second thing that you need to be aware of is that in the clients table, we are using a pack to create this client doc and this button. That's a free pack that you can install under Insert and Packs again, and that pack is called Coda Doc List. And when setting up this button, I use that pack, and in particular the copy doc function of that pack to then create the doc for the client from a template. So that's the template URL, the title of that new doc created. That is a concatenation of the client name plus training plan, and the result column, that is the client doc, meaning once the doc is created, that's where the link will be added in the client doc column. And finally, you can find here under advanced, there is a disable if formula, that is disable this button if the client doc column is not blank, because if it is not blank, it means the client doc was already created, and so you can't create a new client doc. Now let's get into the client doc side of things, because once you create the doc, then you have the whole structure laid out for you, starting from a mobile view that displays today's training session and the current training program here. Current training program means the training program with the status of active, and today's training session means the training session when the date is today. And this is easily clickable from by, and where you can see all the movements as well as sets, reps, and so on. Then you have the workouts home that is more computer friendly because it is full width. It has some dynamic data here at the very top showing the current objective, the current program, as well as the sessions of the week and the whole calendar showing all the sessions for your client. And sessions are always clickable like that. They are expandable and you can see all the movements for each session. The training objectives table has three main views in here that you can access, and objectives are training adaptations. That is not a mandatory table that you need to use in the system, but it is a way to categorize programs by the objective. So you can think of this as a periodization table where you can keep track of the objectives over time for your client. And once you create enough programs and you collaborate with your client for a long enough time, this can prove very useful to see what's the progression over time, and what were the objectives that you went through over your entire lifetime of working together. So each objective is always a page. It has a status that can be started, current, and done. Start and the end date. The duration that is automatically calculated based on the end date minus the start date. And then all the training programs that you periodized for that objective. So when you open an objective, you will then be able to see all those columns as well as all the programs that you can also create directly from here. And these programs are also stored in the main programs table, where you will see each program is a row, each program has an objective, that's a relation column, a status, start, end date, notes, and you can open each program page to then see all the sessions within that program. So you see that we are looking at a pattern here, a hierarchical pattern of data that flows from objectives. That's the highest level goal in the hierarchy of the system. Each objective has multiple programs. Each program has multiple sessions. Each session has multiple movements. And movements eventually will also flow in a chart, if you decide so, that displays the progress over time for your client on each compound movement or any movement that you decide to track. So for each session, you will see that you can select movements exactly like I showed you in the initial 5-6 minutes of this video in the program creation flow. So movements are stored in this main database, and your main job when starting to use this Coda doc is to come here on the main template and adjust your movements that you want to have, because the movements that you have in this table are the ones that you can select when creating each session for your client. So you can see this is a list of all the movements, and you can see the pattern here that you can also change, of course, by going under select, column options, and you can change the patterns that you have. That's a multi-select property or column. Then you have the proper execution, that's a URL that as well you can quality check and then change it if you like. And then these other columns are not very relevant besides the add to chart that allows you to check this box if you want to track that movement over time on a chart that is displayed on this page. Under movements in here, nested within that page, there is a movements tracker table that is just for making the system work properly. So it is not operational for you. No changes are needed in here. This is just a backend table. You can think of it as a join table, in effect, in database speak. And each session has a unique movement row so that you can then track the progress for each movement over time. And this table is automated, so no need to play around with it. It is just here to make things work smoothly. And in fact, if you want, you can also hide this from the view once you're confident with the system so that your client doesn't need to see this table. And finally, charts is where you can see a few examples, and you can create your own charts as well by using the command in Coda that is /chart, and you can see a few options that you have. Now, some default options that are here are maxed weight per compound movement. And for example, here we have squat, but we don't have any weight tracked yet, and that is why this is empty. And you can watch my video on the Coda Advanced Workout Planner if you want to understand exactly how these graphs would work, because the logic is exactly the same. And there is progression over time per compound movement, and there is also weekly volume where you can track for each day the volume on each pattern of movement. So horizontal pull 6, elbow flexion 6, for example, and so on. You can see here, then once you have enough data, this adds up the total amount of sets per pattern for each movement on your sessions. And you can go under display here to see exactly how this graph is set up. And you can also change it to customize it to your liking once you get confident with the system. And really, that is what there is to it. That is the personal trainer OS in Coda, a centralized system where you can start from your backend doc to manage all your clients, and if you want, also invoices. and then create those client-facing docs that allow you to quickly and smoothly create objectives, programs, sessions, and movements for your clients. Also shareable with them, where you can also see a progress over time of the progress for your clients on key compound movements. You can find the link to this doc in the description of this video. Feel free to drop any questions or thoughts that you have down below. Thanks for watching for now, and see you soon.